Yo, what's up everyone? Today we're diving into a fresh, creator-first take on Oscars 2026, without just repeating the headlines. I'm going to break down the big threads, add my own takes, and connect the dots to where award season storytelling is actually headed. And yes, I'm turning what could be a dry winners list into a conversation you'd actually want to watch from start to finish. The hook that keeps most people scrolling is simple: power, hype, and the messy reality behind those glossy trophies. Personally, I think the real drama isn't who takes home Best Picture, but how the narratives around these films reflect bigger shifts in cinema and culture. What makes this year stand out is how the nominees map onto trends we've been watching unfold for a while: indie realism colliding with blockbuster scale, auteur prestige bumping up against franchise sensibilities, and performances that feel more like character experiments than career milestones. In my opinion, that tension is what makes Oscars 2026 feel more interesting than it looks on paper. Let's unpack the core ideas I'm seeing, and I'll lay out 3 to 5 sentences of personal interpretation after each one to give you the texture you crave. Idea 1. The Best Picture lineup mirrors a hybrid cinema era. You've got titles like Bugonia, Frankenstein, and Sinners rubbing shoulders with more intimate projects like Hamnet and One Battle After Another. What this signals, from my perspective, is that the industry isn't choosing between prestige and crowd-pleasing anymore, they're choosing both. That matters because it pushes studios to fund and market ambitious genres that still feel emotionally grounded. What people often miss is how this blend affects audience reach. It creates a broader tent of what Oscar-worthy can look like, which in turn shapes future studio bets and festival strategies. Idea 2. The acting categories read like a snapshot of contemporary star trajectories. Timothée Chalamet, Leonardo DiCaprio, Emma Stone, and a handful of others show veteran clout meeting new generation energy. What I find fascinating is how these actors are balancing legacy personas with wilder, riskier roles that push them beyond familiar FBI credible charisma. This matters because it hints at a shift in casting philosophy. Award bodies may reward experimentation as much as pedigree. People often assume name recognition equals wins. The deeper pattern is that visible risk is increasingly rewarded when it lands emotionally. Idea 3. The director and international categories emphasize cross-border storytelling. When you see names like Chloe Zhao, Ryan Coogler, and Joachim Trier in the mix, plus a robust international feature slate, you're witnessing a push toward global cinematic conversations rather than a purely Hollywood-centric podium. What makes this really interesting is how it encourages audiences to seek non-American perspectives, which broadens the market for subtitled or non-English language projects. If you take a step back, this trend aligns with platforms democratizing access to diverse voices, which in turn pressures studios to invest in broader, riskier storytelling. Idea 4. The tech and production side is quietly evolving. The presence of categories like Best Visual Effects and Best Production Design alongside traditional categories shows that the Oscar stage still cares about spectacle, but the bar for what constitutes spectacle is expanding. A detail I find fascinating is how production design now doubles as world building. Creators are more explicit about constructing immersive environments that carry narrative weight. What this implies is that art direction is increasingly a narrative engine, not just decoration. Idea 5. The ceremony's evolving pace and presentation shape reception. In recent years, the Oscars have faced critique over pacing, inclusivity, and relevance. What this year's lineup suggests is a push to curate a show that honors craft while remaining binge-friendly for a global audience. From my perspective, the real test will be how hosts, clips, and segments balance reverence with contemporary, punchy storytelling that keeps younger viewers engaged without alienating longtime fans. This raises a deeper question about the ceremony's identity in a streaming-first era and whether the broadcast can reinvent itself while preserving prestige. Deeper insight: these threads aren't isolated. They reflect a broader movement in cinema toward hybrid formats, films that feel intimate yet ambitious, characters who challenge conventions, and storytelling that travels across cultures and platforms. If you zoom out, you can see a pattern. The industry is recalibrating what award-worthy means, aiming for resonance across diverse audiences while preserving high craft. This is less about who wins and more about how winners signal the direction of future productions, funding priorities, and global collaboration. Closing thought: Oscars 2026 isn't just about a list of winners. It's a climate check for modern cinema where risk is rewarded, where international voices gain more ground, and where the line between spectacle and intimacy blurs. If you're a viewer, pay attention not only to the trophies but to which kinds of stories the industry is choosing to elevate. Which trends do you think will define the next 5 years of filmmaking? Drop your predictions and hot takes in the comments, and tell me which nomination you'd personally coach for a breakout win. If you enjoyed this breakdown, consider subscribing for more creator-style analysis where I pull apart the signals behind the headlines and tell you what they really mean for you as a film fan, creator, or aspiring industry insider.